Hey friends, today I'm going to walk you through step by step how to make this really cool jewelry display 100% out of resin. For this project, I just bought a simple 16-ounce resin kit, and I'm going to recycle an old plastic cup so that way I can throw this away and mix the entire thing for this project. Any resin is going to do, but just be sure that you follow your package directions and really stir your hardener for the amount that they tell you, because I promise it matters and your resin won't harden correctly if you don't follow the instructions. After your resin's mixed, then I'm going to pour it into 3 separate plastic cups. And the reason for the 3 separate cups is each one is going to be a different pigment color for my project. So it's really up to you how many colors you want to use. Today I'll be using mica powder because it's so versatile and I just happen to have some on hand. But I'll be using pearl, stainless steel, and black onyx colors. And I'm just going to put the tiniest bit into each plastic cup before I mix them with an individual popsicle stick, so that way it's fully mixed with my resin. Now that all 3 colors of my resin is mixed, it's time to start pouring. I got this mold on Amazon for really inexpensive, and I'm going to use it to make this jewelry display. Now, since I want the rim of my jewelry display to be all pearl, then I'm going to start with that color. And I'm going to focus on outlining the perimeter of my project so that way that resin has a chance to really sink in to each of those corners. To help eliminate any bubbles, just tap the sides lightly, or you can go over the entire thing at about 1.5 feet distance with a hairdryer, and it will help bring all of those bubbles out. You can also pop them as they surface with a toothpick. Once my basic outline is done and the perimeter is complete, it's time to use my pearl resin to fill the antler ears. Now these ears are made so that way when they're hardened, then they can slide into my jewelry display, and they're really great for storing rings and bracelets and earrings and all that good stuff. So I'm gonna make sure that they're laying really nice and flat, and I'm gonna pour that resin in. Now don't be too worried if any spills out, because after it's hardened, you can sand it with some extra fine sandpaper and smooth out any of those rough edges. Since the antlers can be extra fragile while they're drying, we're going to let them sit and not touch them, and then we'll go back to the base of our jewelry display. Now I want the bottom to have a really cool marble effect, so I'm just going to take my resin and pour it diagonally, and I'm not going to worry too much about being too perfect with it because natural stone isn't really perfect anyways. And so I'm just going to go back and forth using all 3 colors so that way I get some really cool dimension. And I'm going to try to have my darker colors line up with my gray and my pearl kind of balance everything out. And so you can just kind of pour until the entire bottom is covered. And as it sits, then that resin's going to settle even more and blend perfectly so that you have a really beautiful marble effect when it's hardened. Now that my base jewelry display is complete and I realized that I have a little bit of extra resin, I decided to make this little tray as well. So I'm going to wipe out the silicone tray and mix a little bit more of my pearl resin because I ran a little bit low. So again, we're going to take our clear resin that we've already mixed, add a little bit of pigment, and stir it till it's fully mixed. Since we want this to look like it's part of a set, I'm going to do the same process where I outline the perimeter and that edge with pearl resin, and then I'm going to do the marble effect that we did in the middle. Again, I'm going to be alternating between my silver and my black resin and my pearl, so that way I have a really cool diagonal effect along the bottom of my tray. Now you might notice that I'm doing this project on a plastic tablecloth, and the reason for this is twofold. Number one, it makes it so that if I make a mess, which I always do, then it's not that big of a deal and I'm not damaging the surfaces of my house. And number two, after my resin is poured, I can actually take scissors and cut loosely around that plastic tablecloth, and then I can drag it to where I want it to dry. And we'll be letting these molds sit overnight because resin actually hardens faster if it's a thicker mold and can take a full 24 hours at least to harden completely if it's a thinner mold like these antler ears. Now that everything is hardened, it's time to remove them from their silicone molds. And what I love about silicone is it just peels right off. And so from here, everything is nice and hard, and as I mentioned before, if you have any rough edges that you'd like to smooth out, just use some extra fine sandpaper and you can buff out any little pieces that you need to perfect. Making things with resin really is so rewarding, and it's so fun that once you start, it gets a little bit addictive. So be warned, and also have fun with it and feel free to experiment because that's all part of the process. So thank you so much for watching, guys. If you'd like more tutorials, I have over 300 unique tutorials on creativefashionblog.com. Thank you so much for watching.